Well, as they say, the security situation in Nigeria gets a bit more worrisome when you have some people being paraded in fairly large numbers, and they're said to be Boko Haram members in Lagos and Ogun State. Because then that gives you the impression that they have actually moved some of their members into the southwest, and there's a possibility that some of them might be in the southeast. So you then begin to wonder, where are they going with this? Is it with a view to attack or with a view to just get them to spread and get members? Really don't know at this point in time. So we're looking at the security challenges in Nigeria now, and to discuss this with us, on my left-hand side is Mr. Ona Komo, our security expert, our in-house expert, almost. Great to have you here this morning. And on the other side is Mr. Razak Oladosu, who is a human rights activist. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Now, let me start with you, Ona. From all of what you have heard, when you have a situation where within Nigeria you suddenly find that you're not talking of finding one man who is said to be a Boko Haram member, or 2 or 3 or 4 or even 10, when it goes to about 20, 30, 40 being found between Lagos and Ogun State, it gives serious cause for concern. What's your thought?
It does, sir. Well, it's a trend that we had seen coming. Because when you have it's simply displacement theory of crime. That's what it is. When you put measures in a place, when you target having a particular location, in this case the emergency rule in the northeast, Borno, Adamawa and Yobe states, that created a lockdown in that area. Now what happens? The bad guys have 2 options. Either they resign from being terrorists, which of course is not likely to happen. They can go across the border into Cameroon or to the north into Niger or Chad, or they can be displaced back into Nigeria. That's border states primarily. That's why you saw the attack in Kano on 29th of July, the one in Sabongeri. They can be displaced into Bauchi states, all the border states, Kano, Jigawa, Bauchi, Gombe, Taraba. And if you look at the attack statistics from those areas, you see that there's intensification of BH activity in that area. Of course, or they will be displaced elsewhere, further afield. Now, let me just say something that that you should just keep at the back of your mind. And this is that OBL, that's Osama bin Laden, many years ago said, and this is from Foreign Intelligence Services, go into, he had always been interested in Nigeria. He said that he didn't like Nigeria being secular, that Nigeria should be a theocracy, something like that. He said he didn't like it. And so he had given that order a long time ago when Obasanjo was president, that he wanted to depose Nigeria's secular government. So that's a fact of history. But now he now said, I'm talking about now strategy, how to get it done. He said, go into the hinterland, be artisans, be guards, be whatever, that's menial workers, and then you can, when it is time, you can strike. So that's really what we see manifesting now, and that's how come the numbers are so large. Well, we know also, even from Kabiru Sokoto's arrest, that he had been in and out of Lagos. We know also that we even have amirs, that's BH leaders in the south and southwest and southeast regions. So I mean, what I'm trying to say is, the only difference, Mr. Kayode, is that they are still pre-operational. So there's good news. They are pre-operational. They're not in a position yet with ordnance to carry out spectacular attacks. So that's the difference. So that's what we really need to watch. Let me paint a picture for you here. A few days ago, ordnance was seized on the 28th, to be precise. Ordnance was seized from a quarry in Bara in Yobe State. On the 29th, there was this devastating attacks, it was plural, attacks in Kano State, which resulted in 45 deaths. You connect the dots.
Okay. Now, let me ask you then, Mr. Ladosu, when you look at what has happened, There are some people, for example, if you look what is international practice, you will suddenly think, how can all of these people be arrested and paraded? You will want to look at it from human rights perspective. But at the same time, it's a worrying trend. Where is the balance from your thought stream?
You see, my brother, the reality that we must all contend with is that where your right stops, mine starts. So we are not going to continue to say the right of not being abused or being illegally arrested should foreclose the fact that any who is engaged in criminal and disorderly acts like these BH folks should be left alone. In fact, to some of us at our own level, we felt organizationally that even the community, the local community and the entirety of the people around should now become the eyes of everybody.
Indeed.
That we must be able to, yes, we want to protect people's right, but that includes the right to life of others too. Because if you say you don't want this guy's right to be hampered, but he's planting bombs all over the place like the victims in Kano and those other places, they are innocent people who are just out there taking fresh air, you know, you hit them. It means you foreclose even their right to life. So if it is only your right to move around freely, which is subject to a court decision, is what is you are complaining about, I think it's a different thing entirely. But you see, the reality is this, that to some of us, whatever way you look at it, President Jonathan, on this issue, in the last few moments, I think have really impressed us. And you see, we are happy.
What is it you will say the president has done to
impress us? Yeah. You see, the reaction of the various JTFs in those states to put the BH people's leg to fire causes the migration that we are noticing. One, they are displaced. Two, like I said, their capacity to reach out to ordinances, because the Quarry invasion sent just one signal.
Yes.
That they are out of ordinance in their usual depot. So definitely what they are doing now is to kind of scamper.
But shouldn't there have been a strategy that will map out that, okay, when we start to implement our strategy, we know they're going to flee? Do you not think that they thought about this?
Yes. The issue here is when they, well, first of all, remember emergency rule came down suddenly. It was just announced May 15th, right? And it was sudden. And 2 days later, you had the big strike in Daura, Katsina State. They were still free at the time. But remember, JTF is running operations in 29 states in the country. So they are all over the place, including Lagos, where they seized the 42 BH suspects that we're talking about. Now, ordnance that Mr. Razak is speaking about is so critical, because without the ordnance, you can hate, you can be angry, you can, you can really want to commit terrorism. You can aspire to be a terrorist, but you cannot operate as a terrorist without ordnance. So that's where that is so important, and that's why I'm happy this morning I saw in the paper that JTF has said, you know what, we're going to look more closely at quarries. Of course, that's why the conflict in Jos, Plateau State, almost spiraled out of control, because those blasting, you know, there's a lot of mining and quarrying activity taking place there. Those ordinances were being used for the wrong reasons. And so that's why, so of course, there's something to be said here also. We think that the authorities should have been proactive in knowing that once emergency rule, now back to what you said, once emergency rule was declared in those states, that those ordinances should have been secured or even recovered from the quarry managers. And in this case, this is very unfortunate. There was even a Pakistani who was in charge of the ordinance here. Something stinks here, I'm telling you, Adishawa.
Because you would naturally think that this wouldn't have been part of the strategy. That, okay, we strike here, the water splashes, we keep our buckets in place. So that when it does splash, it gets inside the buckets. Do you think that this is not so bad after all? We can start to capture all the Boko Haram because they'll keep being influx into other states. Then we can keep our net open so we can catch them.
Yeah, well, you know, it's a very big operation. First of all, the territorial, the geographic spread that was involved here. And then the